Good evening to everybody at the University of Toledo Spring Start 1L program. Thanks for joining my colleague Denise Fogel for tonight's Westlaw training session. We looked at statutes and key sites. So looking up here, statute of frauds, we know that that's what we're looking at. You can see some statutes popping up here, keeping in mind the jurisdiction is going to influence what you're going to see popping up. If you're going to run a search for statute of frauds, you'll notice just running this search across all content means that we'll have to actually focus in on some of these statutes. Clicking on that tab is going to bring up a statute that says certain agreements to be in writing. That's totally not what we were searching for here. So what made that connection? Well, some of these related documents. Remember, by way of review last time, we looked at things like Ohio Jur, we looked at things like ALR, we looked at things on this side here, and that's what connects us up here. Keep in mind also that the statutes index is going to bring together all of the statutes on a particular point. So if you're going to set up somebody's horse business, you would probably need to see all of the places where horse law comes up in the statutes, because you can see they're hiding in a lot of different places in the way of contracts. And so statute of fraud, there it is, 133.505. And if you click on it, what do you get? Of course, you get certain agreements to be in writing. So it doesn't matter how you're searching for it. It matters that you find it. Here it is. Now, some other things that you can do besides reading the text of the statute: no action shall be brought. What does it actually mean? Well, remember, secondary sources are over here. Practical law, fantastic resource, which we'll talk about more in your second semester and in your second and third years. But back to the document. What about currentness? You click on that, you can see what it's current through or when it's been recently amended. You'll see a red or a yellow flag if you're looking at something that's been amended or ruled unconstitutional. Question more on those in a second. But what about the notes of decisions? This next tab across the top. I'm going to click on hierarchical view and sort from A to Z. And you can see here that the statute of fraud talks about a lot of different topics, like, oh, I don't know, real estate, but not just real estate in general. But what about some of these specific things? Leases, licenses, mortgages, property severed from land. You click on any of those headings and you get cases from a really long time ago, and you get cases that are really a lot more recent as well. And the genius of Westlaw is being able to connect them with these key numbers here that you see. Now, keep in mind that these notes of decisions are part of Westlaw, and they're written by those same attorney editors that write the head notes that we looked at just a second. So you can see here, this is a head note from an unreported case, so you can click on any of these key numbers to quickly update your research, and you can see how this is maybe connected to all the other cases on these particular issues here. So that's pretty nifty. What about history? History graphical statute is what I'd like to center on. You can see here that's a pretty settled area of law, but if you needed to know what the statute looked like in 2015, maybe because you're a criminal lawyer and you're interested in a murder that happened in 2015, you actually need to know what the murder statute said at 2015, not what it says on Westlaw today, because who cares? And now you can see that from history graphical statute. So that's kind of the quick rundown of these tabs across the top. Remember, the same good old workflow tools like saving a folder are going to be pretty nifty for you here. You can page back and forth with these section symbols. You can hit table of contents to see how this issue sits in context, and most importantly, this button over here, this little page with a little left-hand arrow, super browse, allows you to see just the texts of the statutes, so that way you can see how it all works together to make your cause of action happen or make your defense happen. And again, that little button is over here to the side. Back to the home page, and now to talk about key cite. These are these little red and yellow flags that you see in connection with stuff that you pull up. So you can see here, this is a Florida against Health and Human Services case from a few years ago. You can see it's got a red flag. You read that negative treatment and you say, hey, it looks like this case was granted cert by the Supremes, and then it was affirmed in part, reversed in part over here. Now, why are we looking at this big wall of text? Well, because you could also look at it from this history tab. You can see here what we're looking at. C was granted cert along with a couple other cert grants consolidated into this case here, National Federation of Independent Business, and which affirmed in part and reversed in part C, which we're looking at over here. Again, that's the history tab over here. Helps make it look very simple when we're looking at big, complicated Supreme Court litigation. Again, from that red flag, though, you're going to see that parts of this opinion were, as I said, affirmed in part, reversed in part, and you can actually see, hey, it looks like this has also been negatively cited by other things. So after those decisions, there were pieces of law that said, hey, we know this was overruled, and we know it was overruled as to some of these issues over here. And you can see Geneva, Daniels, and Purpura. But if I were just reading this as a practitioner, what I would probably want to do is read that Supreme Court opinion, read this over here with recourse to the headnotes, and see what specifically was overruled about some of these lower opinions. And you can actually see here, okay, there was a district court case. It went all the way up here. The Court of Appeals made some decisions over here, and then the Supreme Court made these decisions, and you can see what it abrogated in the way over here. Within the text of a statute itself, again, you can see yellow flags that would indicate what of it was unconstitutional or preempted, what was proposed legislation. Another talk for a much longer talk. But what I would say, the main practitioner's takeaway is do not be scared away by these red or yellow flags. Simply see what was distinguished and which points of law, 10, 23, 34, whatever, and in the event that it was overruled instead of just some of this more mild negative treatment, even if it was overruled, to what points of law was it overruled, and what can I maybe still use or still argue or still tell the judge, no, I'm not using it for this purpose. Plenty of other amazing things on Westlaw. The webpage lawschool.westlaw.com. Follow at Westlaw School on Twitter for some time-saving tips, giveaways, and the like. Look up the Westlaw walkthroughs on the YouTubes, or follow at Lindy Hop Lawyer for my in-person schedule and other recap videos. Thanks for watching, and we'll talk with you again soon. Bye.